All good.
And we're live. Welcome in, everybody. Happy Good Friday to those that celebrate. Welcome in. It is Friday, 4/7, April 7th, 1:01 p.m. Central. I am here, joined by the great Not Legal Advice, aka Richard, aka Borghand, aka every name in the dictionary. We're going to do our usual update with MMTLP to start the day, and we're going to get into a bunch of Tesla topics, EV topics. So much to talk about. Real quick, if you're new to the channel, you're new to following this format, this is our Friday community forum, and this is where me and my community members sit down and discuss all the latest news around a bunch of different topics. And then after we're over for about an hour and a half, we would jump over to our member-only stream, which you can access by joining right below this channel. And half of the earnings from every single one of our Friday streams go to our community pool, where the community decides what to do with those funds. They can, I keep saying ice cream as if I'm trying to plug something, but it could be ice cream if y'all want ice cream. So thank you everybody for joining us today. Yeah, just Richard and I today. I think it is a holiday weekend. I'm sure a lot of our folks are out enjoying time with their families, and Richard and I, like a bunch of losers, are on the internet on a live stream talking about Tesla. So go ahead, Richard.
Well, good morning and thank you, and happy holidays to everybody. And so far, I think Tesla is flat today. At least it's flat on the market today.
That's what I saw. That's what I saw.
That's what I saw too. Yeah, so I'm going to give you a quick MMTLP thing, because I think it's always it's interesting how something does happen each week. So just a quick MMTLP is a security that was shorted improperly, and the shareholders are kind of stuck in limbo. It's now like almost 4 months. And unfortunately, there have been a couple suicides and other situations arising out of that. So I'm kind of like keeping people apprised as it goes, because it involves naked shorting, which affects any and all securities, including Tesla. And as a matter of fact, I think Elon even put out a tweet this week relating to the shorts and hedge funds. It was a couple days ago. It was a couple days ago. Because Tesla was improperly shorted at times because they tried to put it out of business. It's really what the point was. And that is one of the aspects of naked shorting, is to put the company out of business, because that benefits the short holders. But to bring it up to date, there is a congressman in Texas named Pete Sessions. I think he's based in Waco, I believe. And he is now involved in pursuing the documents and records regarding MMTLP from FINRA and the SEC. And the reason why this arose, and this happened, so I talk about this every Friday. So on Saturday, after our last meeting, pursuant to a Freedom of Information Act request, so any citizen, if they want, they could prepare a request for documents. They send it into an agency, and they will get the documents back. There are problems with that because they're not always returned properly, timely, appropriately, but a lot of times people get things that they didn't expect. So what was discovered in this particular occasion, there were only like 23 documents that were produced. Most of them were redacted, but in it, it showed that 2 years before the incident that I'm talking about, the SEC and FINRA were both aware of fraud in the initial trading of the security and suppressed and concealed that. And then ultimately there's a trading halt, and the reason for the trading halt that FINRA said is false, but they said it was settlement reasons, and it came up at the last moment. In these same documents, about 10 days before that time, there was discussions amongst all these departments about the issues. And in effect, they set up a plan to put a trading halt in place, which would have been illegal and not without notice to any investor, who could have then bought the shares thinking all was right, while FINRA and the SEC knew there was fraud going on. Wow. And there's and the names that are referenced are at the top of those agencies. So at FINRA, it would be Robert Cook, who's the CEO. And at the SEC, I think the top of the SEC would be Gary Gensler. But all the names of the SEC people are redacted.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow. Where can people go to find more about this story?
They could either go to Not Legal Advice, which is, you could see on the screen. Please feel free, or just just Google MMTLP, and you will find more than you will imagine existed.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the update. As always, it's it's great that we it feels like a new age where we have more and more sort of citizens and sort of the citizen journalism. We have folks like you that are willing to take up this fight. So thank you so much for your efforts. And I'm sure I see the comments on your videos. There's so many people out there that were impacted by this, and the fact that I don't know, just thank you for doing what you're doing, man, because I know it's helping a lot of people. So that's absolutely awesome. Yeah. Thanks. All right, so let's talk Tesla here. There's a lot to cover. Producer wife, as always, the beautiful producer wife. Can you pull up the first tweet that I put in the private chat? We're gonna hit the price decreases that were just announced from Tesla. It impacts the entire lineup. Here's our boy Sawyer Merritt, which, by the way, he's going to be on the channel sometime after earnings, after Q1 earnings, or Q1 earnings. So Sawyer and I are going to sit down and have a chat on this channel. So look for that announcement soon. Breaking: Tesla has officially launched a new lower price Model Y all-wheel drive variant in the United States on their online configurator for $49,000, and all prices were also reduced. So now we have a Model Y all-wheel drive, which is the standard range, which is going to start at $49,990. This is a 4680 battery, which, for those that are not familiar with Tesla, it's their newest battery technology that they're building out in Austin, Texas, which should allow Tesla to lower their cost of their vehicles even further over time. You have the Model Y long range, which now starts at $52,900 from $54,900, so a $2,000 decrease. And the Model Y Performance, another $2,000 decrease from $58,900 to $56,900. And important to keep in mind that all these cars are eligible for the $7,500 EV tax credit, which is conditional on how much taxes you owe at the end of the year, which is a great sign. So, and then we also have price decreases for the Model S and the Model X as well. If you can pull up the second tweet, producer wife, also from Sawyer. Tesla has reduced the starting prices of the Model S and Model X in the US by up to 5%. So the Model S all-wheel drive is now from $89,900 to $84,900, and the Plaid from $109,000 to $104,000, and the Model X all-wheel drive from $99,000 to $94,000, and the Model X Plaid from $109,000 to $104,000. These are not eligible for the EV tax credit because they are above the $80,000 MSRP limit. Although that Model X all-wheel drive is $15,000 away, so I'm curious to see if Tesla would ever, if that Model X gets down to below 80, thing would sell so much. But I'm curious to see if that would ever happen. Richard, first thoughts. What's going through your mind here?
Yeah, I was said. So one thing is, it suggests that 4680 battery production is improving if they come out with that version of the Y. So that's hopeful. It shows that they have dynamic pricing. We've seen it, and I guess we got to get used to it, that the pricing is going to fit the demand. So if they want to clear out inventory, they're not going to be afraid to reduce prices to match with whatever the supply is. We know the supply is up, right? Because we know that the numbers at both Austin and Berlin are up. So we know that supply is up, and I would assume for the rest of the year, the supply is going to be increasing. So I think the prices probably are going to be somewhat softer to match that increased demand. I also kind of wonder, and I wonder. So the X and S, they sold about 10,000 units last quarter, something like that.
Correct.
Yeah, which is relatively insignificant number. And I'm wondering if we need to kind of rethink it to make it more attractive. I know you referenced the price drop in the price, but I wonder if it's they have to reimagine it in some fashion, because it's kind of an afterthought in the numbers. It really doesn't make a difference, so I'm wondering, just like they're redoing the Model 3, maybe they got to redo the higher end models to kind of re-inspire those too, because 10,000 is probably not enough to kind of spend a lot of time on it. But anyway, those are kind of my initial thoughts on the price change. It doesn't bother me at all. I think we should just get used to it.
Yeah, I think for me, that's an interesting question you raised for the Model S and X. I really do think that the sort of long-term vision for those cars being 100,000 units per year that Tesla set out, say back in 2016, 2017. I don't think that's coming to fruition right now for multiple reasons. One, I think the Model Y, the Model 3 offer a lot for what they are. You know, they don't offer the luxury and the speed and the performance or the space, but they offer like 80 to 85% of what those cars do today. So I think that's one thing, and the other thing too, I do think there is a global economy that is hurting. I mean, if you look at across the economy, folks are starting to hunker down a little bit when it comes to spending, and I do wonder just how popular a $85,000 to $90,000 car is. And then the other variable too, which I think is part of it, I think if there are people out there that are going to be with the whole Elon Musk buying Twitter thing and folks just view him a certain way, if there is a model of car that's going to be impacted by people that are like, I don't want to be associated with him, it would be the Model S and X, because those are very much status. They're a lot more status symbol-y than the 3 and the Y. If I was Tesla, what I would do personally with the S and X, because they are a much lower percentage of the total volume right now, and I do think they'll be reimagined at some point, I think you just drop the base models and just sell the plaids. Just go straight plaid for the S and X, make them a showpiece. So a showcase kind of car, similar to what the Roadster will be once it launches. There's a reason why we don't have the Roadster yet, is because they're only going to sell like 5,000 units, if that, per year, if that, right? And once that comes out, what's the reason for an S and an X, right? It's just like this weird. It's a weird reprogramming of what the car market's going to be, which opens up a lot of different discussions around the S and X and the 3 and the Y and stuff. But that's kind of what goes through my mind for the S and X. Did you have any sort of thoughts
I was going to
there?
say it makes sense though, because when like a model's introduced, you expect it to be there forever, but that doesn't necessarily mean it is. There may be something that comes and replaces those models down the road.
Yeah.
We hear 10 models. I don't know if that means 10 models at the same time or 10 models total, over time.
I think at the same time.
At the same time. So that could be 15 different models. And you might go through a few and find that some sell better than others and are easier to make. You have a bigger margin, you could distribute them more. So it wouldn't be shocking if some models disappear and the new models come and replace them or kind of replace that gap.
Yeah. I also do think that Tesla did on purpose. They are selling S and X to other regions as well. Like they started selling them in China. There was one other, they're going to start selling them in Turkey, I believe. So these are new regions, and the only factory that's making S and X is Fremont. So that means that you have to put that inventory on boats, and those boats take a while to get over to those locations because they're not going to ship them by air. Right? I mean, that would be completely ridiculous. So they have to go on boats, and that's a 2 to 3, probably a 1 to 2 month lead time for those cars. And so you're going to have that transition of those vehicles then, which could have eaten into those deliveries. It'll be interesting for Q2, I think, tracking those S and X sales, because if they're back up to say that 20,000 level, then what that tells us, okay, like they're still able to sell this car, and it's not really a problem. But then the bigger question becomes, as for the short term and medium term of the stock, is the margin. So Tesla's dropping the prices, so the margin discussion is getting louder and louder and louder. What's going through your mind with these price decreases?
Well, it is what it is. I am long term, so I figure even if margin, I'm expecting margins to decrease. By the way, I'm surprised they can't sell the cars we're just referencing in Saudi Arabia. I would, that would be a market I would think that would like the higher end Teslas. It would be prestigious. Obviously, they're now open to it too, by the way, because they have Lucid and that connection. But so obviously I'm concerned about margins, and I expect them to dip, but I don't really, honestly, I don't care. I figure that even if there's a dip in the short term, because of mostly macro, the economics of the time, because if interest rates are lower and whatever, the margins would be bigger. And I perceive that like 3 years from now, interest rates will be lower. So even if it's like suppressed now, we'll get another bounce then. And maybe then it'll reflect more accurately the real price. So I try not to, even though, listen, it's easy for me to say as I'm sitting here, I try not to kind of look short term. And I really do look long term. And I think in the long term, it's kind of meaningless if they do 20% margin this year, 25%. as long as 5 years from now they're doing, in the 20 somewhere, I think we're good.
Yeah. There was a tweet that I want to share. I've showed this on my one of my videos this week. Can you pull up the tweet I just posted on private chat, producer wife? It's the last one. It's from Espen. Well, that's we'll cover this one too, and it's the last one I just posted as well. You can bring that up next. Okay, we'll do this one first, no problem. So this is the price of raw materials that are involved in building out Teslas. So if you click on each chart, producer wife, we'll kind of read them off. So this is, click on the first one. That's nickel. So that's obviously a battery raw material. You can see that from the peaks in 2022, it's come down dramatically, and the pricing today is a lot closer to the peaks in 2019 and 2020 versus where it was in 2022. And one of the comments that was made by Tesla was, hey, we have savings in the supply chain that we haven't recognized yet. So that's one thing at play here that might be talking, closely tied to the price decreases. Go to the next chart, please. You got iron. That's another one. Obviously a big material for building out the cars. Again, it peaked in 2021 and it has come down and stabilized in 2023, much closer to the peaks in 2019. Go ahead and go to the next one. We got aluminium for our British friends. 2023 prices are much closer to 2020 end of year prices than they were at the peak of 2021 and 2022. So there's savings there. And then go to the next one, which should be the last one. We have steel, rebar, which again is a big part of the car equation. You'll again have price decreases really with 2018, 2019 levels now versus the 2021, 2022 peaks. I wonder, and Tesla has talked about this often, and bring up the Elon Musk tweet as well that you were showing before, producer wife, in response to Omar Holmar's catalog, friend of the show. I guess he's never been on it. I'm going to have him on one of these days for sure. The idea is to take the car, to make the cars more affordable. This is related to Teslas, not to spend money advertising so that you can make them more expensive. And then this was in response to James Catt talking about Tesla advertising. And then Elon Musk replied to that tweet saying, so many well-off critics don't understand that demand at scale is limited by affordability. There's plenty of demand for our products, but if the price is more money than people have, that demand is irrelevant. How do you think about all these things, Richard? I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
I think that's no. I was going to say before you went to that, along the same lines. If we go into a recession, so the good news is all the commodities are going to get, crash. There won't be demand for them. So to the extent that's going to has to be factored into the equation in terms of Tesla's products too. So it may suffer a little bit in terms of the demand side, but it may benefit commensurately on the cost side because of the lack of demand industry wide, and the lack of demand is not distributed equally across the industry because we've seen it. Tesla's still increasing in numbers while everybody else is decreasing. So Tesla's going to get disproportionately from everybody else. They're going to benefit the most from the cost savings because they're actually still working. So, so that's my thought as to that.
Okay. There was one other cost too I wanted to bring up. Can you pull up the last tweet I just shared? I'm putting producer wife to work today, man. She's got her work cut out. Poor woman. This is also from Sawyer. Lithium carbonate prices in China have plummeted 65% since November. Lithium carbonate, lithium as the raw material, of course, is really the key driver of cost for Tesla. It was mentioned on I believe the Q3 or Q4 earnings report from Tesla from 2022 that lithium was going to be one of the biggest cost headwinds going into 2023 because they were modeling it as it increasing versus 2022. And we have a chart here that shows that it's down 65% from its peaks, much closer to the costs we had in 2018, if you look at the beginning of the chart there on the left, but significantly lower than the 2022 prices, which of course one would think, this would pass on to Tesla. I do want to make a quick comment though. Tesla, I believe, uses lithium hydroxide, but it's still a lithium product. And I'm assuming the sort of price action we're seeing on lithium carbonate, which is a battery material, would also be similar to lithium hydroxide. Yeah, I just want to throw that out there. Not sure if you had any thoughts there, Richard.
Yeah, I think they will benefit in the drop of lithium, but unfortunately, the lithium's like a two-prong thing. It's the cost of the material, and then it's the refinery, the refining of it. Yeah. So, so this obviously will be factored into the total cost, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the lithium will be available because we still need the refineries. And I know Tesla is building a refinery, so that's one way of kind of taking care of the problem. Yeah. I have a funny thing. I kind of buried the lead.
I love funny things.
Funny. Yeah. So I'm calling into some Spaces place. It's on the Spaces place. There's a guy who's
on Twitter.
Yeah, on Twitter. There's a guy who was a former SEC enforcement guy, and his name happened to be Robert Hansen. That to me struck me as funny because there's a FBI guy who was a convicted trader, like one of the greatest traders in the history of the United States, whose name was Robert Hansen, but nothing connected. So he's an SEC guy.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. So he's on there, and I'm thinking I could ask him about like MMTLP and stuff I got and like the interior workings of that, because he would know. So the host asks him a couple questions, and then a guy comes on and starts asking him about Elon Musk. And he starts making allusions to like illegal conduct by Tesla and Elon Musk.
Wow.
And it turned out to be Gordon Johnson. So he's on there whacking away at Elon. And I wasn't going to talk about Tesla there. I'm the next one on. And I go on and I say, listen, the guy who just spoke, in my opinion, I believe has no credibility. He's the most notorious Tesla bear out there. And I don't believe a word that he says. That was my totality. And then it cut me off, by the way. That was
really?
But yeah. I never got to speak to MMTLP, but I got to defend the virtue of Elon. And so I
such a good guy.
I do. I feel so good today. I did my good deed.
On this Good Friday, you're a good guy.
And it was Gordon
Johnson. Figure.
And it was Gordon Johnson.
That guy is I just don't see where he gets the what I respect the most about Gordon is just how steadfast he is at just being the most wrong person in the room 100% of the time. Like he won't quit. He won't quit. He's not a quitter.
I mean, do you believe, and this is a serious question. Do you believe that people like that are always stating their own opinions, or are they sometimes influenced by receiving some remuneration from outside parties?
Well, this is only speculation, right? No, of course,
shooting it.
Thank God I'm talking to a lawyer. For me, I do find it just I am very impressed by how little he has changed his tune over the years and how consistent he's been on the wrong side. And I mean this, like, I mean this sincerely. I just don't get it. And he is either he has so much conviction around his thesis that regardless of what happens with this arc of Tesla, that he just thinks that this has to happen because of the data sets he has that he's sharing, or there's something else going on. But I truly don't know. I truly don't know. And you would think, like, let's just assume again, this is just spitballing. I am just saying, I don't even know if this is true or not. But say there was some remuneration involved. Wouldn't that person be like, yo, this bet sucks? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've been doing this for years and it hasn't, I don't know what's going on. I don't know. You tell me.
I think most people have a price. So, I'd like to say that I don't have a price, but I bet you if somebody came with enough, I got a price. I just don't know what it is yet. So
he's very consistent.
Yeah. So, yeah, no. If he is just that convicted, then I am truly impressed. Even though I don't agree with it, but it's impressive.
It's impressive.
Can't be moved, notwithstanding what's going on. That is really tough. So if that's the case and he just believes whatever he says, then even though I don't agree with him, I respect that part of him. But I wonder those kind of people, how they make their money. Because if
Yeah.
he's betting against Tesla, he hasn't done very well on that.
Yeah.
And he seems to be focused singularly on Tesla. Although, as it turned out, one thing I learned about afterwards was he doesn't believe that naked shorting occurs. That was kind of like a side issue. So the whole
Interesting.
MMTLP thing, he would not believe, which is funny,
Well,
I thought.
yeah. I don't know. You know who Stephen A is? Stephen A.
Yeah.
Smith. Yeah. So he
cool.
reminds me of like the Stephen A. Smith of like stocks. He's like, I've never seen somebody so passionately wrong about so many things.
Yeah.
And it's entertaining, at the very least. So listen, it is what it is. Producer wife, bring up that link you just posted on private chat, because actually that's something I want to talk about too. This is related to a story that broke a day or two ago about some, I think, former Tesla employees were talking about this. Go ahead and zoom in a little bit on that subject for me. So this is from, who's the publication? A PC Mag, I believe. So this is PC Mag reporting on a story by Reuters. I just love how these news people report on news people. Tesla employees shared video captured from customers' car cameras. Content recorded by built-in driver assist cameras was routinely shared between employees via an internal messaging system between 2019 and 2022. A Reuters investigation finds. Scroll down a little bit. I believe this is pertaining to when folks opt in to share dash cam video with Tesla. I think this might be that. Content recorded by built-in cameras used to assist driving was routinely shared between employees via an internal messaging system between 2019 and 2022. As Reuters noted, some of the shared content shows people in compromising situations. One video, for example, shows a man approaching a Tesla completely naked. Wow. Others include footage from car crashes and road rage incidents. So what are your thoughts? I have some thoughts about this.
Yeah,
what are yours?
I got a lot about this. So
yeah.
And I'm going to relate this to Kobe Bryant. So where I'm sitting right now is about a mile from where his helicopter crashed. And I happened to be sitting in my office the day that happened, and I heard the helicopter that day. It's that close. I didn't hear the explosion, but I happened to hear the helicopter over me. It was a foggy day. So in that particular matter, obviously he died. The sheriffs came onto the scene. They took photographs of the wreckage and the body, and then they distributed it internally amongst themselves. That's what happened. Kobe's wife sued the sheriff's department, and the sheriff's department settled the case, paid something like 15 or 20 million bucks to the family. So in this case, I think I saw some reference. There may have been 7 complaints. I don't know if that was legal complaints or complaints in themselves. And I saw one involved the gentleman you mentioned, who was in the nude, and one was about a child. You saw I don't have to describe what it was, but the child. So perhaps the parents of that child might be in a position to have a case. It might be that the family of the nude guy or the nude guy who was placed in he didn't expect that those pictures would be viewed by anybody, might have some kind of case. It's possible. And obviously we could say that notwithstanding that, Tesla would prefer that not happen. And if employees are doing that, they should be reprimanded or terminated, I would say.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they were, if that had already happened.
Right.
But it obviously doesn't create, it creates distrust in terms of privacy. And obviously that's an issue it's a big issue in every company. We'd rather not happen. I'm sure the news will overplay it, but it is an issue. Obviously it has to be dealt with.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm largely aligned. I do think there is this sort of new world of cameras everywhere is being sort of accelerated by having self-driving Teslas freaking everywhere, right? So that's going to be probably something that Tesla's going to have to navigate for the next decade, especially as this technology gets bigger and bigger. It's important to highlight that these are ex-employees. These folks, the ones that I think Reuters spoke to were ex-employees. I don't know if it's clear if the folks that were sharing the pictures were ex-employees. However, I think it's important to say from my perspective is I think if people shouldn't be doing that. I think a lot of those pictures, if anything, all those pictures should be handled with a lot of privacy. And if they were being shared, of course, those folks have to be reprimanded. It's not okay. Obviously, right? So
yeah, and there'll be some lawyers, and I'm sure will pursue it. I would guess. And you and I were talking about it before. There was a case decided this week. There was a case that had previously decided a worker. He was an elevator operator in Fremont, and like in 2015 or 16, there were obviously remarks related to his race that were made that were improper. It went to trial. He got some gargantuan sum of money from some jury in the Bay Area.
100 million?
150 million approximately, which was made a part of to cover his damages, his harm he suffered, and most of it punitive damages. The judge reduced it to approximately 15 million. The plaintiff, the gentleman, Mr. Diaz is his name, he elected not to accept the 15 million and have a retrial on the damages. The jury came back last week. The total award was $3.2 million. So he's going the wrong direction. He says he's going to appeal, but Tesla will appeal too. And it's very possible that $3.2 million award can be reduced further. And if nothing else, because I'm not saying people aren't wronged, that's kind of my business. And I recognize that. But part of the problem is people often they seek a recovery for amounts that really don't apply and they shouldn't receive. And maybe this kind of process gets you to a real number. So here, the ultimate number they gave him was $175,000, and they gave him the rest was punitive damages. So that punitive damage award is probably still too much. So it legally probably could still be reduced, but that's $175,000. Whether you agree with it or not is much probably closer to a real number than 3 million. And what the attorney asked for at closing argument in this case, he asked for $160 million in closing argument.
Wow.
So he didn't. So his outcome probably wasn't very happy.
Yeah, I mean, it's still $3 million if he gets $3 million. I mean, well, the truth of the matter is that
is not.
Yeah,
Diaz is not. He's going to get 3.2 minus whatever costs come out of this. So costs might be a few $100,000, by the way. So, and I'm going to figure this out for you here. Let's say he's got 3.2, and with going through trial and retrial and experts, whatever, I guarantee it cost him at least $400,000 in costs, just costs. So that 3.2 is 2.8. He had to pay his lawyer 40%. That's another $1 million.
I'm in the wrong profession.
Yeah, I'm in the wrong profession. Oh no.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. No, but I mean, it's good. So it's a lot of money for anybody if you end up with $1.5 million.
Sure.
But it's kind of like a mistake to have handled it the way they did, because he could have walked away with a lot more money. But for Tesla's sake, it will discourage other people from doing the same, because this is a Bay Area jury. This is really, they're not sympathetic to Elon or Tesla when it comes to these things. The fact that they limited the numbers is kind of a message to everybody else.
Yeah. I think what's sort of interesting to track here is that as Tesla becomes a larger and larger company, and sort of there are more situations where individuals can do things that are improper that should be punished. I do wonder, it's like a continuation of the story that as long as the Tesla story and the Elon Musk story has a lot of weight behind it, and that keyword is very, very expensive on the internet, I think that you're going to see a lot of these things continue to play, and the company is going to get a lot of disproportionate attention towards it, but it's still going to be towards some valid circumstances that I think from my perspective, having worked there, I don't think they're reflective of the company culture. But once you're hiring 140,000 people, all you need is 5 people to do something moronic, and then it becomes a news story. And that's the unfortunate truth of the matter.
Yeah, I think it's also kind of reflected in the stock, because it's so galvanizing that when it goes south, it'll go south fast. But when it goes north, when things go good, the train gets full very fast. It kind of goes both ways. That's why when we're going good, we go super good, super fast. because
Yeah.
we get a lot of spotlight.
Yeah.
We don't go undetected.
It's true. How are you thinking about the recent stock price movements with the company when you're looking at the stock market?
Seems like it's kind of like in a channel, and it's kind of going 180 to 210. A lot of the analysts are saying they expect it to kind of go down to like in the 150s, 160s. Naturally, it doesn't mean anything negative, but kind of like as it plays out, and then they'll bounce back up off of that. But you saw it went down to 180. It went 180 yesterday and then bounced right off of 180. So 180 is a support, but I think it's going to depend ultimately, obviously, on what happens at earnings. If earnings, and I think as we have now seen, good stuff, and I don't believe this is kind of what you just said, but anything that's good is already baked in. This is how I analyze the stock market. As to Tesla, if I'm going to predict the price tomorrow, if it's something that I've talked about and it happens, the stock goes down. If it's something that far exceeds what's been talked about, then the stock goes up. If it's less than what's talked about, the stock will crash. Anything I think just kind of good and expected. And ultimately it's unfair, but there is a day of reckoning at some point in time. No matter what we make, Tesla makes money, has earnings, is going to accumulate cash. At some point in time, has to distribute the cash. So shareholders, if we don't see the share price today, there at some point in time, that cash will make it to us somehow. And share price, buybacks, dividends, or Elon will come by and give us an ice cream party, right? The ice cream party.
Right. Yeah. The ice cream's coming. The ice cream's coming, y'all. Yeah. It's funny. Actually, producer wife linked 2 more stories I just dropped a few minutes ago, sort of related to the whole. There are certain stories related to the company that will catch fire regardless of what happens. But you can drop those in the comment section if you like, producer wife. So if folks want to get exposure to that, can. Yeah. Sorry, I don't know if you want to say something.
Yeah, the new merch. The ice cream's coming.
The ice cream's coming. Perfect. Oh man, a couple of other news items too we want to talk through. JB Straubel has been appointed or is running for Tesla's board. He was going to run against Ross Gerber if he decided to run for his position, but it turns out it's just JB. What are your thoughts around JB?
I like him. I already voted for him. This morning,
me too.
I wouldn't feel like I'd done my duty as a Tesla citizen to have voted. So I voted this morning, and I voted for JB. He seems like super qualified. As a matter of fact, I like Rob, and Rob, is doing some kind of side business that I don't quite know yet, but I'm connected to it in some fashion, at least noting about it. And part of it involves some kind of regarding Redwood. So JB has kind of been on my radar. Seems like a super qualified guy. I don't see how anybody could say anything bad. I saw your video. You said everybody had good things to say internally.
Yes. Yeah. He had a great reputation.
I don't see anything negative about it. I'm very happy. And we talked about it in part also whether, at least some people have talked about it. If he in the future could hold some very high executive level back at Tesla. And I don't know, maybe this could be the first step back in that direction. And maybe at some point in time, Redwood becomes part of Tesla or some closer affiliation. Because obviously for Tesla, it makes perfect sense. I don't know the other side, they may be limiting themselves and they'd have to kind of figure out the economics. But obviously there's a perfect match in terms of subject.
Yeah, I think the JB run is one that I'm very happy to see. I think the fact that Tesla's getting somebody at the board level that really understands the culture of the company, is fully aligned with the sort of sustainable aspect of it, a long-term thinker, an expert in battery technology, is very complementary from a skill set perspective or an industry perspective, where he's shoring up one of the biggest pieces from a recycling perspective to try and fulfill Tesla's master plan part 3 goal long term. Right? There's just a lot of really great things about him. Seems like a really nice guy, has a great reputation. Everybody loves him, it seems like, unanimously. The video that I put out yesterday about JB running for the board on my YouTube, on my analytics, so I have a like percentage, and my videos hover somewhere around the 98%. So thank you all very much for such a high to this like ratio, by the way. But it was 99.9% like, and it was like 1,000 likes. So it's like by far, I mean, I don't think there's one person that follows a Tesla story that would think that this pick, for whatever reason, would not be a good one. I just think he brings so many positives to the table. And then Hiro, the gentleman from Japan who was on the board, is stepping down, is not running for re-election. So JB would step in and essentially take that seat. So I don't know if you have any thoughts around Hiro. I don't know too much about him. I just know, yeah.
I don't. It just, though, it would be interesting to know if this decision was Elon's which I assume it would be, because I'm going to give him credit. If the decision to go to JB was Elon's, and I would think it's his decision, or it was other management that made the decision because they had the responsibility for it. But I thought that is a brilliant choice. Really, that shows a lot about the decision maker, that they come up with that choice. Because, somebody could feel threatened by him also, right? Because conceivably he could be a future CEO, theoretically. So if you had some concerns, you might object. But I think it's brilliant, and I think, and it kind of goes along with Alexander was talking about, the proxy statement coming, and the fact they did the meeting earlier than they normally would do to kind of circumvent some crap that they might receive.
You saw that on the votes. There were only like 5 items.
Yeah, very
right?
limited.
Yeah,
very limited.
Yeah.
But I think like choosing JB is also another way of just shutting everybody up. Nobody's going to say who, and it keeps control with the people who want to have control.
Yeah. And then Tom Zhu, I think there was official paperwork filed that Tom Zhu is now officially the vice president of automotive for the company. Your reaction there?
I mean, I think he's the perfect, I expect if there is a person that we know about right now who would succeed Elon at Tesla, it would be Tom. So I think he's in the position he should be. I feel comfortable him running the factories and being in charge of the production lines. Seems to have a really good grasp, seems to be well liked, seems to be very confident, but very humble, a hard worker, all good stuff. I like the fact that he's Chinese, so that kind of protects the Chinese market, and he knows the Chinese market. I think that he's all good. I think, again, that was another good choice also.
Yeah. My favorite thing about Tom was the feedback that at Investor Day, everybody was in like slacks and khakis or like dress pants, and he was running around with sweats on and a t-shirt. I'm like, that's the guy. Sign me up. He's gonna be great in every measure from that perspective. Very humble. I do like the sort of humble nature of him. It's awesome to see. What items do you have, Richard?
He's as humble as Elon.
As humble as Elon. Yeah, sure. Yeah. I love that.
One thing that I saw that struck me was that I think it's one of the measures. I don't remember if it's one of the measures or somehow it came into being that there's going to be a limitation on how much any shareholder can margin their position against Tesla stock. So obviously it's directed specifically at Elon, but I think there's going to be an absolute cap. Because now it was either like 3% or a number, but there was going to be an absolute cap directed. It didn't say it's at Elon, but so that nobody can expose a lot of their Tesla shares, so that they can lose some control. Because ultimately, that's always my concern. I don't think Elon is going to send me $1 billion. But I don't want him to
try. Let's ask him.
I've asked him 3 times, no response. But I don't want him to keep on diluting his position. And at some point in time, somebody gets pissed at him, and they put together a group, and they take it over. I don't think that's going to be in our interest.
But doesn't the latest sort of round of options that are vesting for him, doesn't that give him a significantly more percentage of the company again? Isn't he back up to like 18% or 20% or something?
Yeah, it
once
will.
those things go live.
Yeah, but I mean that's going to take some time before he can exercise, and and I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of. Listen, if he exercise, we're all good, right? Because they're going to be tied to benchmarks that require the stock to do crazy, and we're all rooting for him because we will all do crazy if he makes those benchmarks. So I hope so. But as of now, he's kind of doesn't have them, and he's at a certain amount of risk. And maybe also that's a reason to do buyback to reduce the share count. So whatever he owns, a greater percentage, and he's more protected. I'd rather do that for that. I'd rather do buybacks for that reason, to protect his ownership, than to benefit me. Because I think the first will benefit me more than the second will be. But I am concerned that long term that things might arise. What happens if there's an incident that happens with SpaceX and it's cost them a lot of money? Listen, any problem at SpaceX that's a real problem is going to be a big number, real problem. And
you're talking like loss, like God forbid, loss of life on a launch or something like that.
Yeah, loss of life, loss of the whole thing. And a lot of it's going to be insured, I'm sure, but you can't insure everything. And it's going to be a big number. And maybe he has to raise capital, and that's going to be completely unexpected. It's not like you can plan for that. So I just hope, and really, I really hope, because I really would feel if he got kicked out by some people that we don't support, it would be disaster. It would be terrible. Disaster. And I worry more that, and I guess I am a cynic, but I try not to be.
No.
Yeah, but I worry that it would be somebody with ill intentions,
of course,
just to kind of suppress Tesla, took it over, not because they were trying to make a lot of money or whatever, but they were trying to make a lot of money elsewhere, and this was a way to keeping increasing one, decreasing another.
But so wouldn't that require though a ridiculous amount of money, like $100 some odd billion?
Yeah, I don't think
to make that happen.
Elon's not the richest guy anymore, right?
No, he is. He's back to the richest guy.
I think there's somebody who's actually richer.
I thought he went back to number one again.
I think there's a guy from France, I think.
Arnault, right? Or something like that?
Yeah, it's like a 200 billion plus.
I thought Elon went back. I thought he won.
He did. He did.
Oh, he's back down again?
Yeah, he's back down.
Oh, they're just trading spots.
He's poor now.
Okay,
he's very poor.
If you ain't first, you're last. Who said that?
Yeah. But listen, haven't you seen all those, Marvel movies? Haven't you seen those Marvel movies?
No, never. What are you talking about?
There's always a bad guy, right? There is a bad guy. And in the world, are there bad guys? There probably are bad guys. If Putin was very, very rich, oh yeah, I guess he is. Like a guy like Putin, maybe he has a bad day, whatever. Maybe he locks everybody.
I'm gonna go buy Tesla stock.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know. I worry. I worry sometimes. I don't lose any sleep.
Yeah, I do. That's an exercise that I try to go through as often as I can. Is like, what are the existential risks that exist for my Tesla investment in particular that I'm not given enough weight for, or I don't feel like I'm properly accounting for? And I mean, that one is, it obviously exists. Nothing is impossible. I mean, freaking aliens could, land on Earth and be like, this is all ours now, right? I mean, that's really probably the worst case scenario out of all of it. But I do wonder, it just seems like it would be a very difficult thing to do. And it does seem like what I think is more likely, and you tell me if I'm naive about thinking about it this way, is that I think the money-making ability of Tesla as an investment, as a company, I think is quite obvious to many. It's just a valuation. It's a valuation equation. So when Tesla went down to $100 a share, for the 2 seconds it was there for, a lot of the conversation was like, wow, I've never considered Tesla an investment, but now I do because it's at a PE of 20. I'm like, okay, so here's what's happening. There's a lot of people that I think do view the company as something that's a good thing to be a part of, but it's just too rich for them. So I wonder how much of that dynamic just plays out in the long term versus somebody actually trying to take over the company and do it for ill versus being like, you know what, I'm just going to park my money here once it becomes cheap enough for me. And then I'm just going to let Elon do his thing because he's the greatest builder of our time and he's going to make me a shit ton of money. And then I'll go to sleep sound at night and I'll go freaking ride some bears. You know, I don't know. Like, do you think that's naive?
So full disclosure, not legal advice. Here we go. So like when some guy, Farzad comes to visit me, asks me about his situation, we can't talk about right here that he's my son secretly. we can't mention that. He asked me, what are the potential problems? What could happen? I'm the lawyer. I give him like the 1% answer. So like when I talk about like the takeover by the Martians, that's the 1% answer. That's me covering my ass as a lawyer. I don't really believe that stuff's going to happen. I agree. And I believe that, the more logical conclusion is that it generates cash. I don't know what happens to the stock, but it generates a whole boatload of money as a business. It makes a ton of money. And I think in the end, it has to convert over to the stock price. In terms of the stock price, so I bought down. I bought as low as 106. I didn't buy for maybe 2 months, 3 months. In the last week, I bought in the 180s. I started buying. I think it may go lower, but the point is, I don't think it's going to go back to 106 for the rest of time. So it may go down to 160. That might be the new bottom. And then maybe a year from now, 220 might be the new bottom. Because if you look at it, nothing goes straight. It does go up and down, and it makes sense. When people make enough money, they sell, and then the stock price decreases. And then when it gets low enough, people think they can make money, and they buy, and it goes up. Yeah. So I think people kind of freak out when those natural occurrences happen, but I think it's a fair price at the current time. And anybody who was buying long-term, absent something like we're talking about, absent something where the curve that Tesla is on is interrupted, it's a good investment. You'll do well. 10 years from now, you'll be happy. Mm-hmm. That's kind of and that's not legal advice or
not investment advice. It's just not advice, period.
It's not.
I was on a Twitter space yesterday with Wolf Financial. Actually, I want to tell this story. Actually, before we even do that, do you want to take a wild guess on how many people are watching us right now? Just two bozos. You want to take a guess?
Me?
Yeah, like how many people are watching us right now, you think?
Well, live. You kind of led me to believe it's either 3 or
no, us two bozos, I'm saying.
Yeah, I know, 3. Yeah, I'm saying 3 people.
You think there's a third person?
3 or 1,182.
1271.
That's pretty close.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. Thank you all so much. I can't believe you're here. I'm very happy that you're here.
They must be drugged or something, or I don't know.
Yeah, something.
But they can't. Their change cancel button's not working.
Yeah, or they have us up on everyone's TV on Good Friday, and they're all enjoying our programming on Good Friday. Which apologies for the cursing. I was on a Twitter space yesterday, and there was a gentleman that was on there that was actually was talking about investing in Tesla. He said, I'm not a bull, I'm not a bear, I'm just a realistic person. And I view Tesla as a company that it doesn't have earnings that reflect the forward PE that it has. I believe it's a 30 PE, and I just don't think it's going to generate a lot of earnings for the next 2 to 3 years. And I think what sort of that brought to my mind was like, okay, so it does seem like even at these levels, with the kind of market that we're in, Tesla is being viewed as a company that needs to generate earnings to be able to sort of warrant its valuation. But then what I thought about is like, okay, so back in 2019, 2020, when the company wasn't making that much money, it got a valuation of $1 trillion because of its growth potential. And I think about the company now, I'm like, well, the growth potential really hasn't changed. It's just, it's transitioning from the 3 and the Y to the compact car and the Cybertruck and the van and the bot and energy. So why is it, and you tell me, like, this is why I can't understand why the stock market is this way, or why people like throw out these PE numbers. Like, I just don't get it. I mean, I think I'm just stupid. But like, how come when the company just has the growth potential, it gets a valuation and a PE of in the hundreds, but when it's both earnings and growth, it only gets the earnings price earnings ratio? Can you help me understand that? Like,
Yeah.
I don't get that.
Yeah. So first of all, it's possible you could be stupid. So that's
Okay,
possible.
I agree.
All right,
Yeah,
all right, so
I think that's the highest
I wanted
likelihood.
to agree with you and support you on that.
Okay, good.
On the earnings side, yeah, I
You're
think
so
what
supportive.
happens is Gary Black kind of does this. Anything that's not like present is not counted. So, you know, that includes Cybertruck. You know,
Then how come he invested in Tesla before it generated earnings then?
Well, at the time, I don't know. You have to ask him that. I really don't know. I don't.
I thought he was his representative.
I was going to say I don't think it's fairly valued because it's not treated as a value stock where the income would be fairly valued, and it's not treated as a growth stock where its growth would be purely valued. Because it should be connected to its PEG ratio. You know, the growth of its earnings over its growth, and they use kind of like one-ish is kind of like as a number. So if you did a 40 PE, it's doing 40% growth. That's a 1 PEG ratio. That's perfectly appropriate. For some reason, it doesn't get valued fairly. I think that's just the reality of it.
It's weird.
I don't think it's tied to reality or rationality because you could just pick one or two items that are likely to occur and discount the crap out of them. You know, the robot. I could say it's worth 10 trillion and say there's a 2% chance of that happening, but I'd give it a value. I'd say 2% times 10 trillion, and I'd give it a value, a present value. So to not do that kind of thing, I don't think is really fair. And I think it's super cover your ass because maybe they don't 100% believe they could rely on Elon to do exactly what they expect.
Yeah. I think that's I agree with that 100%. And to me, what it proves is that all these metrics don't mean anything to me. Like they're just arbitrary measures that are tailored to averages of industries that are just pulled out of nowhere to try to justify a position that is psychological and arbitrary. You know, so it's kind of like it doesn't actually it masks itself as a scientific approach, and all it is that you're just picking and choosing the metrics that look scientific to try and drive forward a narrative that you want to drive. And I'm not saying I'm not guilty of it. I think every single person is, because when I'm sitting here and I'm saying, well, Tesla has the potential to be a 10 trillion, $20 trillion company, I'm saying, well, based on some PE ratio, right? But I think the more I'm more in this, the more I think about this, is I feel like I do wonder at some point if at some point the measure of the team of a company is ultimately its biggest asset, because that's what sets the culture, that's what creates the product, that's what creates the service, that's what creates the experience, right? And so I wonder if it's just at some point a lot of these investors or folks that analyze these companies, when they think about price earnings and stuff like that, I wonder how much of the equation is the team and the prior execution and sort of the experience that team has built up, you know? And I wonder if that ever gets counted in that equation, or it's just, is 80% of investing just looking at PE ratios? And if that's the case, it's no wonder Tesla is not where it needs to be.
I agree on like 100%. The PE ratio, that's complete fabrication nonsense. You know, I think that Tesla should be valued 37 times my age. That's about as relevant. Really? Why 30? Why, you know, just what a pick. That would be a good number, by the way.
So 104 or whatever that number is.
No, 1,000. I think 1,000, 2,000 would be 2,000. I agree 100% because it's completely arbitrary. The fact that Apple gets like a super premium PE
Costco, Chipotle.
Yeah. It makes no sense. That in essence is like if you look at a balance sheet and you look at the goodwill value of a company, that's just kind of like it's made up. It doesn't exist. It's a brand. So what is it worth? Hard to tell. That's what I think of this. It's complete fabrication. The fact that Apple is worth X PE is because I say so, not because there's a hard and fast scientific rule that I can punch out. I put in the formula and here it goes. Completely arbitrary. So I agree to a large part, it is what you have. It's what your basic existence, what your team is and what you are, what your mission statement is, because everything else is kind of outside of your control, unfortunately.
Right. It's all psychology, right? It's also, I feel like it's all just based on psychology. And as much as we want to make this a scientific, endeavor to want to invest in companies. And listen, I don't know what I'm talking about. So I want to be very sure in saying this. I'm just sort of like thinking out loud, just for the audience, for the 1,300 people that are watching this. Like, don't view me as somebody who knows what he's talking about. I have no idea what I'm talking about, but it does seem very psychological in a sense that a lot of these metrics, a lot of these things are still based on human action. It's like, hey, I think this thing is good, so I'm going to buy it. I'm going to use this number to justify that it's good. Okay, cool. You can do that. But I just don't know how much value that places when you have disruption and game-changing technology that is actually looking to disrupt the auto market. Just look at, for example, the latest price decreases for Tesla. The Model Y now is cheaper with the EV tax credit, the long range, than the average new car price in the United States. That seems like a big deal. That can't really be measured with that stuff. But anyway, I digress. Do you have any topics before we hit Q&A?
Yeah. I was going to say, so I wonder if counterintuitively, because like guys like Gary Black say if Elon steps down from CEO, that Wall Street would hate it, whatever. But maybe if like Tom stepped into CEO and Elon is, chairman of the board and basically the overseer and he's the product guy, maybe the outcome is completely different than what we expect. And we get like a Tim Cook effect that we get Wall Street's comfortable. They know he's more predictable and they know Elon's still in the background. So there'll still be, change and new products. And so who's to know? Because again, that's the exact point. Guessing the stock price and what's going to drive the stock price seems to be irrespective a lot of times of the business.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anything else before we start doing some Q&A, Richard? What do you think?
No, I've ranted enough.
Me too. Let's try to answer some questions from the community. All right. So we have about a half an hour. Thank you all so much for joining us thus far. Really appreciate you guys. We have around 1,300 people joining us today. Thank you so much for stepping in and saying hello. We're going to answer community questions. So drop a question in the comment section below with question right before your question in all caps. It will be very helpful for producer wife to pick out your question, and it should only bring up the best ones, which will be all of them, because you are all awesome. If you're enjoying what you're watching so far, hit a like right below this video.
Are we open to any question today?
Just question. It's Good Friday. Let's just
non-Tesla questions too. How about that?
I will let producer wife decide. She has the power. Okay. Yeah. And if she wants to bring up any questions, we'll do it. Last time we did this, there was a very unique tenor to the questions because stock was up like 7% before the deliveries were reported. And I remember the questions we were getting were so trolly. And I was talking to producer wife after. She's like, "Did you notice how all the questions were so trolly?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "It's because everybody's in a good mood because the stock is up so much." I'm like, "That makes sense." That makes a lot of sense. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and bring up the first question if you can, producer wife, and then we'll get started. T. Nally, he's always here, man. T, thank you so much for your question. Unemployment numbers went up in today's report. More likely, Fed will pause hikes. But Tesla cut prices, which bears Push's lack of demand. How will stocks react to this post and neg data, positive and negative data? Unemployment numbers went up in today's report. I thought unemployment went down to 3.5.
So I think the unemployment, I think it was mixed. I think the unemployment numbers, the actual numbers were stronger than anticipated, so that the economy, the employment sector was stronger, but that the increase in hourly wage decreased. So that's a kind of a counterweight to it. So it may be a push in the end, in terms of what the effect is on the market because they may just do exactly what I just did. Unemployment's stronger, but if wages are not increasing, then that's not a push on inflation.
I see. Yeah, I wonder how much of the current market that we're in is just when, bad news is bad news regardless, so it's like even in a scenario where we're going to get data sets that are pointing to the Fed lowering rates, that if the data set is bad, the data set is bad. If it implies recession, I just don't see how that's positive for stocks, period. And I think there's going to be a lot of flight to safety, continued flight to safety.
And you're right. I think it is all psychological. Like recession, I think is psychological. They've kind of like set it in our mind that a recession is coming. And the impact is everybody gets kind of reluctant to spend as much money as they normally would do. And you kind of create what what maybe intended in the first place. But I think it's kind of, most of it is in our head. I don't think it's in actuality.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. And I also wonder too, how much of this is already priced in, because you would think that the stock market is forward looking. Right. And there have been studies that show that, the bottom of the stock market is about 6 months before the bottom of a recession. And, I think we started a technical bull rally like on Monday or something. I forget when it was. So who knows? I just, who knows what the market's going to do. It could be a double top or a triple top or whatever we're going into right now.
A quadruple top. And they also changed, remember they changed the rules about recessions too, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe it'll be like 3/4 now. I don't know.
I don't know, man.
That's politics.
You gotta love it, especially with the presidential election coming up next year. It's all getting real muddy and weird. I'm still on the boat that you still have record household debt. You have a shrinking economy. You have record credit card debt. You have record high car prices, and you have a Fed that's trying to shrink the labor market. So I just don't see how that doesn't lead to a sinking economy. I just don't understand. I don't know how severe it's going to be, but
yeah, I agree. And I think I would be 100% on board. I just don't know what the impact is on kind of smoothing it out. All those extra dollars that came in during COVID that were, printed. I don't know what that, besides being inflationary, which I understand, I think that's one of the reasons why the labor market is still so strong. I think those dollars have flowed kind of that way. So I don't know if we end up with a traditional outcome. Everybody kind of expects a traditional outcome being a recession, and that's kind of where we go. So, but I don't know. Maybe we kind of escape. Maybe it's worse. Who knows?
I don't think
the Fed or Janet Yellen, Biden, anybody. I don't think any of them know.
Nobody knows. That's been one of my best realizations to finding peace in life, is that I don't know anything and no one knows anything, and someone's going through something. So it's like those three things combined is like, okay, I'm like, okay, all right. So it's just whatever. We're just trying to figure it out. It brings a lot of like peace to mind. And that's why I feel so comfortable just speaking about all this stuff out loud with people like you. It's because okay, I'm just trying to figure out just like everybody else. And if somebody's trying to convince you that they know everything, then I wouldn't listen to that person. But don't listen to me either. There is the trick. Let's do the next question.
That's true. Be skeptical of everybody.
Yeah. Next question, please. Alex, question. What was your favorite item that was released in Master Plan 3? Oh, dude, we didn't even talk about this. How is that even possible? What was yours? I'm gonna go ahead and pull this up in the meantime.
I was talking to you off before we started. The fact that second factory is still unexpressed. So when we were talking about Mexico and the second factory, and then when the Master Plan 3 came out, I guess it's 41 pages, which in and of itself is pretty incredible. How much time must have been spent in generating this? So it had to be super thoughtful. And then they talk about the compact car, and it's 4 million units, I guess they discussed. Mexico had 2 million. And then I think it was Berlin and Austin were the other 2 million between those two. Mm-hmm. But that second factory that Tom mentioned, there's no vehicle still assigned to that's referenced in Master Plan 3, unless it's the bus, the van, one of those potential vehicles that were addressed. So for me, it was that it wasn't identified, and the mystery remains. And I'm really curious as to what that second factory will produce.
Yeah, I am really curious if it's still part of me still says that it's going to be mostly compact car. I know we talked about it before we went live, only because I do believe that that car is going to sell somewhere between, if I were to guess, somewhere between 10 to 15 million units per year. People are going to be like, that's literally impossible. And I'm going to say I don't think so, because it's going to be very affordable and it's going to drive itself. So I don't see why people wouldn't buy it. Go ahead and pull up the link here, producer wife. Go to page 22. It's the batteries.
I heard somebody refer to it as a reduced sized Y.
Yeah, it's a hatchback, right? It's a compact hatchback. Yeah, that would basically be it. It'd probably be like a little bit bigger than the Golf, if I were to guess. So my favorite item that was released is this chart, because I think this is actually giving us insight into how Tesla is thinking about the breakout of production, getting to 20 million units per year by 2030. And if you look at that's cool. You made us go away. That's awesome. Maybe this podcast is better without us on the screen.
Oh, no question. No question.
Sure.
Actually, put up other people. Pictures of other people.
Yeah. We should do a poll. You know what? Let's run a poll, producer wife. Should we remove our faces from the screen moving forward? Is this a better thing to look at? So if you look at the vehicle sales column, which is the fifth one in from the left, and it's compact, which is to be determined from Tesla's 42 million units yearly for the entire market per year. And it totals to 89 million at the bottom there. So what this, if you look at the percentage of total, the compact, the midsize, the commercial passenger vans, so 42 million of 89 million is roughly 50%-ish, right? 47%. So what that means, I believe, is that Tesla is giving us a really rough guideline of what each model is going to be doing at full ramp at 20 million. And so if you take their 20 million units per year for their full lineup that they're trying to do by 2030, and you say the compact car is going to be X percentage of that 20 million, then about 50% of 20 million is about 10 million. 24 million for the mid-size is about 5 million, and you start going down the list. I think there's a lot of information here, I believe, that really gives us Tesla's hand, shows us Tesla's hand on how they're thinking about ramping to 20 million. That's my favorite item.
So if in this chart, am I to understand, if the total number of vehicle sales stays constant, that Tesla would have about 25% of the market share, the total market share, something along those lines?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay.
How does that make you feel?
It's a lot. I mean, that's like crazy dominance. Go
ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, I think that's a crazy dominant position. I don't mean that the position's crazy, but I mean that's a dominant, really powerful position in your market. When you're controlling that much, that means there's no competition. And
so what I would say on that vehicle sales number is that 89 million could be 200 million today if automakers actually made compelling, affordable cars right now, but they don't. You go to your nearest auto dealer. Like I would pose this out to everybody that's watching this right now, the 1,200 people watching this right now. You ask yourself a question: why do you buy the car that you buy? Like when think about the last 5 cars that you bought. If you were able to buy a car, why did you buy it? Was it because of how it looked, or was it because of what value it brought forward, and you were trying to sort of really fit the car you're trying to buy to your needs, right? And then ask yourself this question: if an automaker were to come out and offer the same exact utility as you were getting, plus then some for cheaper, would you buy that car instead? And if the answer is yes, that's what this company is trying to solve for, like directly. And under that scenario, when you've had a automotive landscape for the last, say, 40, 50 years, where I believe every car maker has basically built the same car over and over again, even between the brands, they just make little tweaks here and there to try and capture more of the pie. That seems like it's something that's so easy to disrupt that once that person comes in that can offer what everyone else is doing for cheaper and the car can drive itself, I don't see why people would buy anything else. So if everybody was doing that, we would have 300 million cars per year, because every single person would want to get in a car that costs pennies on the mile to get around by yourself. Why wouldn't people do that?
Yeah. So
You know?
let me ask you a question about that. So we're looking
Yeah.
at vehicle sales, 89 million. So let's say there's robotaxi and you can, run it 24 hours a day and you can seemingly you can replace cars
Mhm.
by using it multiple shifts, whatever. Does that affect the ultimate total sales number?
I think it will. And there's actually a piece that Tesla had. Can you scroll up a little bit, producer wife, on the little verbiage above the chart? There's something. Check this out. So on the first line, today there are 1.4 billion vehicles globally and annual passenger vehicles production of 85 million vehicles. According to OICA, based on the pack size assumptions, the vehicle fleet will require 112 terawatt hours of batteries. Autonomy has potential to reduce the global fleet and annual production required through improved vehicle utilization. So even Tesla's coming out and saying this, right? But the question becomes like, has a potential to reduce the global fleet and annual production required through improved vehicle utilization, but at what levels, right? At what level? Is it going to get to 100 million to get there? Is it going to get to 10 million to get there, or 100 million cars per year reduced from that level, 200 million cars per year reduced from that level? Because you're thinking about Africa, you're thinking about Asia, South America. There's just so many different markets that Tesla isn't in right now that they could disrupt.
Plus, the longer it takes, the more you kind of repopulate the fleet. You kind of turn it over, ICE to EV, and if it's not robotaxi, you're kind of just replacing. You're not getting rid of at that
exactly.
point. Yeah.
Every single car. So this is Tesla's position. Every single car that's not a Tesla today will get changed because it doesn't drive itself. So literally the only cars that aren't going to be turned theoretically are those 4 million Teslas on the road today. So that's still 1.4 billion cars that have to be changed over, plus whatever else additional we need for markets in South America, in Africa, in Asia, and other parts of the world that say aren't at the infrastructure level than other countries are that can support a self-driving sort of place. Plus population growth if people start having kids again. I mean, who knows, right? It's, when transportation per mile goes from the 40, 50 cents it is right now, average 38, I forget what the number is, down to like literally 5 or 4 cents per mile. The number of people that have access to that is 10, 20x globally. Everything changes. And if the car drives itself, then it becomes an entirely different experience.
Yeah.
So we'll see. All right.
Well,
Any thoughts?
That was a long answer to a question.
Sorry. My apologies. Please don't sue me. Let's
do by the way,
next question.
I do agree with your first statement that we both know nothing. So I'm there with you.
Oh, great.
Okay, good.
Good. We're just agreeing with each other all day today.
Yes.
Next question. From Mimi, All-Star Mod community member. Favorite ice cream flavor? Oh, chocolate. Easy. It's not even a question. What's yours?
I got a bunch of them. I like Rocky Road. I like really vanilla. I mean, really vanilla, like vanilla beanish vanilla.
Nice.
I like coffee.
Okay.
I like real strawberry, where it doesn't taste like that fake strawberry. You want me to go on for like 31? I can go 31 flavors if you want.
I think that's good enough. I think that's good enough. Yeah. Chocolate for me, simple. Just chocolate. Just as chocolatey as possible.
What does Mimi like? What does Mimi like?
Yeah, Mimi, let us know. Drop it in the comment section. Make sure you highlight it for us, producer wife, when she drops it. Let's do the next one. And Charles 60. Dark beer or light beer? Ooh. I'm more an IPA guy. So it's not so much dark or light. For me, it has to be hoppy. So I tend to like the hoppier. Like I'm really big into hazy IPAs right now. Big time. So that's my choice. What's yours?
Unfortunately, being an old geezer like I am a no beer.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're a wine guy? What do you drink? Do you drink anything?
Unfortunately, alcohol gives me a headache.
Oh, okay. So you mean fortunately?
No, I like wine. I mean, I like red wine. But I could have a taste, and unfortunately, that's sufficient to give me a headache.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry.
But I would go with light beer if I had the choice.
Okay. That's good pick. Good pick. The safe one.
Thank you, Charles. Thanks, Charles.
And I like ice cream weed. Great. Next question.
I can say I've never had ice cream weed.
Me neither. And you're in California too, so that would
I
be
am
like
in
the perfect
California.
place for you to
Yeah, I
have
have
it.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just being a Californian, being supportive, I have nothing against ice cream weed.
Hannah, another friend of the show. Thank you so much for your question. Where will Farzad go with his Cybertruck? My guess, he will take producer wife shopping for shoes. She deserves it. Wow. What do you think about that, producer wife? Let me know. I have a plan. So once I get my Cybertruck, I'm actually going to take one of my old neighbors who they're actually coming tonight for dinner. Him and his wife. His name's Travis. He is a born and raised Texan. He worked in an oil field and has been driving pickup trucks his entire life. He has a Ford F-250, and I'm going to document my pickup experience with him. So I'm going to bring him along with me down to the service center. We're going to pick up the Cybertruck. We're going to take it back. We're going to do a bunch of tests with it. I'm going to have him drive it. I'm going to document his reaction live from a hardcore pickup truck Texan. And I'm going to curious to see what his reaction is. So that's what I'm going to do. Yeah. That's my answer. I don't know if you have any thoughts there, Richard.
I do. I thought differently. I thought you were going to go down to the local Walmart, whatever you have a Walmart that's local at 6 p.m. You're going to do circles in the parking lot for 4 hours and 20 minutes.
That'd be sick. That's, you know what? That would be another great thing.
I'm sure somebody will notice you.
Yeah, I'm sure. I also want to we have this, we live in a community and we have this thing called it's like the green or something. And you can, the people go there and they play sports and stuff. So I think I'm going to take it there. I'm going to park it. And we have a Facebook group for the neighborhood. I'm going to be like, I just got a Cybertruck. Come check it out. And I bet you it's going to be like a freaking flood of people. Yeah. All the kids are going to come out. Yeah, it's going to be fun.
That'd be a fun video to see the crowd. The crowd come.
I'm so excited. I am so excited. This thing's gonna. It's completely underestimated. Yeah.
It's close. I mean, really close. Because Elon said he walked the full line, and he spent a lot of time on it too. It sounded like. It's close. Obviously, they're close to production.
It's close. We're seeing a lot more mules too. Like usually when I think there's been like 4 or 5 different ones spotted. Usually when that's happened, it's somewhere between 3 to 6 months after we see those first production mules that production starts. So I'm actually quite. I think you're right. I think we're quite close. It's so exciting. I can't freaking wait. Next question. Thank you so much, Anif. Producer wife might come hunt you down. Reflect the Sun. Thank you so much for your question. Thank you for supporting the channel. That's why she has a little symbol on her name. Question: we never hear much about the R&D office in Greece or Grauman. What do these look like now from when they announced them? I have no insight in these. I don't know if you have any thoughts around these.
I never hear about these offices in Greece or Grauman. No, unfortunately, I agree with her. I don't know. Maybe that's maybe that's intentional.
Yeah.
Maybe that protect the integrity of whatever's the research that's going on.
For sure. And I wonder how much of that's related to Idra too, because Idra is based out of Italy, and Greece is close by, and Grauman is in Germany, right?
Yeah, I thought it was Grauman's Chinese theater is what she was referring to. But
is that what it was?
That's what I thought.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Next question. From Gino, another community member. Thank you so much for your question. How do you think about current Tesla price relative to likelihood of producing 1.8 to 2 million cars in 2023? I mean, that's we were talking about this a little bit earlier. I think we're both on the same page that, I mean, I'll let you go. I'll let you sort of give your take, and then.
Oh, I just saw a number that China did about 89,000 in March, 89,000 units.
Saw that. Yep.
Yeah, so that's about approximately a million for just under a million production rate, run rate. I think production, because you're asking about production, I think easily they'll do 1.8 to 2. In the current environment. So even if we don't improve from where we are, they're going to easily do. I think they'll do 2, at least 2. What the deliveries will be some amount less, but I think they will easily surpass 1.8.
I mean, so if you look at Q1, they produced 440,000. If you times that by 4, it's 1.76 million. That's basically 1.8 already. And Tesla just reduced prices and has ramped Berlin and Austin both to 4,000 and 5,000 per week, which is, I think both of them are up at least 50 to 70% from beginning to end of the quarter.
Yeah.
And you're going to get that benefit at the beginning of Q2. And then you have China without a holiday in Q2, and you have an extra day in Q2. So, and you have a more filled up pipeline with cars arriving to service centers more often. So I just don't see how they don't hit. I mean, at least 1.9 at this rate. Who knows? Who knows how the rest of the year is going to end? But
I was going to say current run rate. I'd say by the end of the year, I would expect both Berlin and Austin to have produced 250,000 cars. I expect them to produce more than that, but I think a minimum 250,000 cars. That's 500,000. China 1 million, and Fremont 650,000. 215. I think without blinking an eye.
Yeah, I agree with that. 100%. Let's do the next one. Production is not really I think it's just going to be deliveries. I mean, production 2 million. Seems in the bag.
That's what makes Tesla special. Is production's not an issue. Every other car maker can't make cars.
Isn't that amazing? And they get punished for it. You're producing too much product that you're going to sell later.
It's like, okay, you're too good.
Yeah. Literally, it's fascinating. It's just it blows my mind.
They didn't ding Henry Ford for that.
No, not at all. Yeah, I looked at Ford's stock price from 1913 and had the same exact dynamic. Cybertrucker 420 question: has the Tesla retail community grown to a level that keeps share price artificially inflated, or are we still small enough to consider current prices a steal? I don't know how the retail community. I don't know how that aligns with long-term prices. How do you think about that, Richard?
I think that we have a much larger institutional base than we did 5 years ago. So that I don't think it's artificially inflated, because they'll only buy it when it's at a good value. So I think it's probably more fairly valued if they're in it, because they won't buy anything that's inflated.
Yeah. I think current prices reflect current perceived execution more than it ever has in its history. And I think, excuse me, that's what's really driving the price action. And to Richard's point, the net number of dollars that are influencing Tesla right now are exponentially higher than they were back in 2019. So that, which means that there's significantly more institutional money at play. And in the end, those guys are the ones that drive stock price, because most retail buys or holds for Tesla. From the just dynamics that I see with the retail community, is that they're they're hodlers. Just like the Bitcoiners, they're hodlers. So, if anything, I don't know. I don't think there's a correlation.
Yeah, I think in part it's a tactic of institutional investors. That's kind of how they make their money, is they create the uncertainty in the marketplace. They hope for drops in the stock price, and they can intervene, and they're obviously making more money on it. And they have the liquidity to kind of take advantage of those situations. And most retail investors don't. You can't write a check for $1 million tomorrow to buy a bunch of stock.
That's right.
Maybe you can. Maybe Farzad can, but not.
Nope. Unfortunately. Okay. Next, this is the last question. And Tony, question: if Tesla could sell as profitably for $70K, how large do you think that market would be? Ooh, if Tesla could sell the Model S for $70,000, it would be significantly larger than it is now, because that's a $25,000 decrease. It'd probably double in size, if I were to guess. I was going to say maybe the forecast, 100,000 unit forecast, might be apt at that point. Just for the Model S at those prices, I would argue. Yeah, because you get a lot of value for money for that kind of pricing. Yeah, definitely. You get a rocket ship for $7. That would be insane. That'd be completely nuts. We'll see if they're able to. I highly doubt it, because the production line there for the S and the X is still quite it's their first generation. So I guess the only reason the alternative reason they could do with that is to F with BMW and Mercedes, and kind of just put the crunch to them. And make them really lower their prices on their premium models. They can do that. So once full self-driving does become mainstream and people are buying it as a legitimate option for their cars, the amount of margin Tesla is going to generate from the vehicles is going to allow them to basically sell them at cost, because they'll make the 30% margin on the software itself, if you think long term. So, if that means that you sell the hardware at cost and you make it up on the software side, that completely destroys it just completely destroys the entire car market. Yeah. So
yeah, no,
all
I
right.
saw you did a bunch of videos about that, right?
I did a bunch of videos about
Everybody
a lot
else
of
is
things.
screwed. Basically, the title is every other car maker is screwed. Basically.
That's my my last sentence, and I'm sticking to it, as they would say. All right. Cool. So let's move over to the community members only forum. If you want to join us there, click on join right below this video. If you enjoyed the content, I would love it if you throw me a like. Thank you so much to the community for joining us on this wonderful Good Friday. Happy holidays to those celebrating. Thank you to everybody keeping the comment section lively, full of great discussion. Really appreciate everybody that's part of this community. Thank you to all the mods, as always, for doing a phenomenal job moderating the discussion. Thank you, Richard, for joining me today. One more time, where can people find you on YouTube?
Not Legal Advice with a K, Knot.
Make sure you check them out. Great channel. And last but not least, as always, thank you, producer wife, for an amazing job. Well done. Give yourself a round of applause. And we'll see you on.
By the way, she's terrific.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you so much. We'll go over to members only right now. So join us there by clicking on join right below this video. Take it easy, everybody. Happy holidays. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Wow.